Welcome to What Changes. I'm your host, May. Today, we are going to fundamentally shift the way you look at wealth, retirement, and the assets you choose to buy. In this video, we are revealing the 8 assets that are a complete waste of money, the specific purchases that rich retirees absolutely refuse to make. If you want to stay up to date with more insights on building true wealth, make sure you join our Telegram channel listed in the YouTube description below. Through observing wealthy retirees who successfully maintain their financial freedom, a clear pattern emerges. What separates the truly rich from the middle class is not just how much money they have accumulated, it is what they refuse to buy. The middle-class retirement dream is often sold as a collection of physical things, like a vacation home, a shiny new car, or a complex investment product that sounds incredibly sophisticated when discussed at a dinner party. But the wealthy retirement mindset, the mindset that actually preserves a multi-million-dollar portfolio, is obsessed with 3 very different things: liquidity, simplicity, and cash flow. Rich retirees know that complexity is the ultimate enemy of execution. They understand that if an asset requires them to answer stressful emails from a property manager while they are trying to enjoy a relaxing wine tour in Tuscany, that is not an asset, it is a job. And as a retiree, you did not spend decades working just to buy yourself another job. The wealthy avoid assets that tie up their capital without a clear, predictable path to returns because they deeply understand opportunity cost. Every single dollar that is trapped in a dead asset is a dollar that is not working for you in the market. While the middle class buys status symbols that drain their bank accounts through endless maintenance and hidden fees, the wealthy are actually buying freedom. Let's look at the first major offender. This is an asset that looks like a wonderful lifestyle upgrade, but is actually a pair of financial handcuffs: timeshares. The math on timeshares is absolutely catastrophic. These properties will typically lose 50 to 70% of their value the exact moment you sign the contract. If you try to sell a timeshare on the secondary market today, you will quickly find that the actual market value is essentially zero. In fact, you can easily find listings on websites like eBay where desperate owners are selling their timeshares for a single dollar just to escape the crushing burden of the annual maintenance fees. Alongside timeshares, we have to talk about recreational properties, like that dream cabin in the woods or the beautiful condo on the lake. The fantasy is that you will be up there every single weekend with your family, but the reality, you might go maybe 3 times a year. Yet the property tax bill comes regardless of whether you are there or not. The insurance, the homeowners association fees, the unexpected roof leak that miraculously happens the one week you aren't there, those expenses are constant. This ties up a massive amount of your capital. Let's do the math. Imagine you have $500,000 tied up in a lake house that you only use for 2 weeks out of the year. If you instead invested that $500,000 into a boring, diversified portfolio earning just 7% a year, that capital would generate $35,000 a year in cash flow toward your retirement. Do you know what kind of vacation you can take for $35,000 in cash? You can stay at the Four Seasons, order room service every night, and when you finally check out, you don't have to worry about fixing the toilet. Wealthy retirees prefer to rent their luxury. It keeps their capital entirely liquid and keeps their weekends completely free of lawn care. While recreational properties drain your cash flow, whole life insurance policies represent another wealth-destroying product that rich retirees always avoid. Now, insurance is absolutely vital for protection, but mixing your life insurance with your investing strategy is like trying to make a grilled cheese sandwich using a toaster. It might technically work, but it is going to be messy, wildly inefficient, and there are much better ways to get the job done. Rich retirees avoid using whole life policies as investments because the internal rate of return is historically poor, often hovering between just 2 to 4% after you factor in inflation and the hefty premiums. Meanwhile, the hidden fees inside these policies can drag your returns down by 2 to 3% every single year. The truth is, when you have a net worth of over $1 or $2 million, you are essentially self-insured. You do not need a massive death benefit to replace your income because your accumulated assets are already producing the income you need. The smart, wealthy strategy is simple. Buy term and invest the difference. You buy cheap term insurance for the specific years you actually need the financial protection, like when your mortgage balance is high and your children are young, or to cover potential estate taxes. Then, you take the massive savings from not paying whole life premiums and you invest that money directly into the market. By the time your term insurance eventually expires, your investment portfolio has grown so much that you likely don't need life insurance anymore. Whole life policies lock up your capital with severe surrender charges that can last for years, and wealthy people absolutely hate having their money held hostage. But what about annuities? If you have ever been invited to one of those free steak dinner retirement seminars, you have almost certainly been pitched one of these. These are high-fee, highly complex products, specifically variable or indexed annuities burdened with heavy riders. They are aggressively sold as safe investments to anyone looking to retire, but that safety comes with an enormous price tag. We are talking about total annual fees that can easily exceed 3 or even 4% when you stack up the mortality expenses, the administrative fees, and the cost of the investment riders. Think about the underlying math here. If the stock market grows by 8% and the annuity company takes 4% in fees, they have just eaten up half of your total growth. That is not a financial partnership, that is robbery. Furthermore, these products are famous for their harsh surrender charges. The fine print often dictates that if you want your own money back within the next 7 to 10 years, you have to pay a massive penalty of 10% or even more. Wealthy retirees place a premium on flexibility. They know that life changes unexpectedly, health issues will eventually happen, and new financial opportunities will arise. Locking half of your entire net worth into a rigid contract that actively penalizes you for accessing your own money is the exact opposite of financial freedom. If a wealthy retiree needs guaranteed income, they avoid these complex, high-fee products that pay the salesperson a much bigger commission than the client will ever see in actual returns. High-fee annuities will drain your returns through hidden costs, but the empty vacation home represents another massive cash flow killer. We touched on recreational properties earlier, but we need to specifically target the vacation home investment myth. Many high-net-worth couples fall into the trap of thinking they will buy a place in Florida, use it for a month out of the year, and treat it as a great appreciating asset to pass on to their kids. Here is the harsh reality check. A vacation home that sits empty for 10 or 11 months a year is a liability, plain and simple. You are burdened with endless carrying costs, property taxes, HOA fees, insurance, landscaping, pool maintenance, and HVAC repairs. These costs typically drain anywhere from 3 to 5% of the property's total value every single year. If you own $1 million beach house, you are likely bleeding $30,000 to $50,000 a year just to keep the building standing. Unlike your primary residence where you get the daily utility of living in it, an empty vacation home is just sitting there, physically depreciating on the inside while the real estate market fluctuates on the outside. As you age, do you really want to spend your time worrying about a hurricane hitting your property 3 states away? Do you want the stress of managing 2 entirely different sets of contractors? Rich retirees know that simplicity is the ultimate luxury. They do not want to be property managers. They want to be travelers. They avoid the empty vacation home trap because they fundamentally understand that the return on investment for peace of mind is much higher than the potential appreciation on a condo. Moving on to the investment portfolio itself, we find the silent killer of retirement wealth. Asset number 5 is actively managed mutual funds with high expense ratios. You might actually hold these in your portfolio right now without even realizing it. These are funds where a highly paid manager is actively picking stocks, attempting to beat the market, and for that supposed privilege, they charge you expense ratios of 1, 1.5, or even 2%. Here is the staggering statistic that wealthy investors know, but Wall Street tries desperately to hide. Over a 15-year period, nearly 90% of active fund managers will completely fail to beat their benchmark. This means you are paying 10 to 20 times more in fees for performance that is statistically likely to be worse than a simple, low-cost index fund. Let's look at the devastating compounding effect of those fees. If you have a $2 million portfolio and you are paying an extra 1% in active management fees, that is $20,000 a year quietly leaving your account. Over a 20-year retirement, assuming standard market growth, that could easily equal $500,000 of lost wealth. That is a Ferrari you just bought for your fund manager. Rich retirees simply do not pay for underperformance. They focus their capital on low-cost, tax-efficient index funds, or ETFs. They focus on controlling what they can actually control, which is the cost of investing. They stop trying to find the needle in the haystack, and they simply buy the entire haystack. High mutual fund fees drain your market returns, but luxury vehicle leases represent another wealth-destroying expense that rich retirees avoid at all costs. This one often surprises people because society naturally associates being rich with driving a brand new Bentley. But if you look at the data, and this brings me to a highly recommended book for our viewers, which explores the data on the millionaire living next door, you will see a very different reality. The absolute fastest way to burn through your capital is to lease brand new luxury cars or buy a new one every 2 years. A new luxury car loses about 20% of its value the very minute you drive it off the dealership lot. Over just 3 years, it can lose an astonishing 50 to 60% of its total value. If you choose to lease, you are signing up for a permanent, unending monthly payment that builds absolutely zero equity. You are essentially just renting prestige. Smart, wealthy retirees understand that a car is simply a tool designed to get you from point A to point B safely and comfortably. They do often buy high-quality luxury vehicles, like a Lexus, Mercedes, or BMW, but they buy them slightly used, letting someone else take that massive initial depreciation hit. Alternatively, they might buy them new, but they commit to driving them for at least 10 years. The financial difference between a $1,200 monthly lease payment and owning a paid-off car is over $14,000 a year in freed-up cash flow. That is enough liquid cash to fund a luxury cruise or completely max out a grandchild's college 529 plan. Rich retirees prioritize life experiences over the temporary smell of new leather. While luxury vehicles drain your monthly cash flow, buying collectibles as investments represents another incredibly poor wealth-building strategy. Asset number 7 is a favorite of the hobbyist investor. Classic cars, rare wine, fine art, or sports memorabilia bought specifically with the hope of financial return. Wealthy retirees rarely, if ever, count these physical items as core parts of their retirement strategy. Why? Because of liquidity. You cannot pay for a knee surgery with a fender from a 1969 Mustang. Collectibles are incredibly illiquid assets. When you finally decide you want to sell, you have to find a willing buyer, pay hefty auction house fees, cover expensive shipping, and deal with complex authentication processes. Plus, the carrying costs of collectibles are completely hidden from the naked eye. You have to heavily insure the art, pay for climate control for the wine cellar, and rent secure storage for the classic car. Rich retirees treat these items exactly as what they are, hobbies. They are not reliable assets. If they happen to appreciate in value, that is just a nice bonus. But they never rely on them for their retirement income. Instead, they rely on liquid markets, stocks, bonds, and traditional real estate that actually pays the rent. Collectibles lack liquidity and reliable returns, but rental properties with poor cash flow represent the final wealth-draining asset. Real estate creates more millionaires than almost any other asset class, but in retirement, bad real estate creates more stressful headaches than anything else. Many people make the mistake of buying appreciation plays. They will buy a condo in a hot, trendy city where the monthly rent doesn't even cover the mortgage and the HOA fees, but they justify it by banking on the price of the property going up over time. This means you are constantly feeding the property every single month. You are writing a check out of your own pocket just to own the asset. That is the very definition of a liability. In retirement, cash flow is your oxygen. If an asset is actively consuming your cash, it is suffocating your retirement. Wealthy investors who choose to hold real estate in retirement demand positive cash flow from day one. If they can't get it, they skip the headache entirely and invest in real estate investment trusts, or REITs, and private syndications. This allows them to collect the real estate checks without ever getting the dreaded phone calls about a broken water heater at 2 in the morning. Now that we understand all 8 of these wealth-draining assets, let's quickly look at the specific wealthy retiree investment framework that builds wealth rather than destroys it. If we are avoiding timeshares, whole life policies, and depreciation traps, what exactly are we doing? We are implementing a framework that prioritizes your actual life over your ego. Number 1, income over assets. The wealthy focus on assets that generate steady, predictable cash flow, such as dividend-paying stocks, interest from bonds, or truly passive real estate income. Number 2, liquidity is king. They ensure that a significant portion of their net worth is fully accessible within 24 to 48 hours. This completely eliminates financial stress because you know you can cover any unexpected emergency without needing to sell a kidney. You will simply sleep better at night. Number 3, ruthless cost control. The wealthy strip out the actively managed funds with high fees. They avoid the heavy insurance commissions, and they eliminate unnecessary property maintenance costs. Every single percent that you save in fees is a percent less risk that you have to take in the stock market to hit your financial goals. This is exactly how you move from a cluttered, stressful retirement portfolio to a highly optimized one. You stop collecting things, and you start collecting freedom. Thank you so much for watching What Changes. Don't forget to check out the book recommendation mentioned earlier regarding the millionaire next door. And be sure to join our Telegram channel linked in the description below to keep learning how to invest like the wealthy. I'm May, and I'll see you in the next video.